Aloha and welcome to Java. Thank you kindly again for joining me. This is for Thursday, March 14th, 2024. As usual, there's quite a bit to go over and then kind of a bit of a surprise at the end. So thank you very kindly for joining me. Let's go right into the risk levels that we're at right now have elevated a bit, which is a little interesting because we saw some strength come into the 10-year yield as well as the relative strength of the dollar. So those put pressure on stocks and brought them down a bit, which should have actually brought that risk down slightly. So we had the bond auction that went well, actually. There's still enough retail buyers for this. And I suspect a couple of reasons, basically, with the foreign currencies. However, going into the markets, we've got slightly down, relatively flat, and the futures are looking positive for now. So probably another chop day. We are getting some more inflation prior to the market open. So we'll see what that does. And just a reminder, normally the first move is wrong. So I advocate waiting, seeing how that plays out just a bit and going into your trades from there. So at any rate, not financial advice. We've got more key inflation data coming in, and then also looking at Foxconn's chips. So that's they make the smaller support chips for the larger processes. We've got a TikTok ban that everybody seems to have been talking about, and it's not so important on TikTok as far as the language and what is attempting to be passed. It's going to the Senate. But the issue with this is it could set a precedence that all of the software that we are allowed to use can be chosen by concentrated power into one individual. So I think that's not really a good thing. So going on to our calendar, we are expecting retail sales as well as PPI and jobless claims. So that could be market movers this morning. And we know the numbers are kind of cooked. However, these numbers are what they use for their excuse in their next decision. So still be watching them and kind of look forward to what they're doing from there. Okay, for the banking and the economy. Now, this is interesting. Nearly everyone, and basically what they mean by that is all of the bears, have given up on the recession call for the markets, and that makes the outlook more dangerous. Well, we're in high risk territory, and so that tends to make things a bit imbalanced. What we're witnessing is a flow of money into something that people perceive as basically flight to safety or having a better chance of having value than sitting in a savings account. So I thought this was interesting. Moving on to Apple and Boeing. Speaking of money flow, this is saying retail traders, not the big money, but retail traders move their money out of NVIDIA and into Apple and Boeing. So kind of an interesting flow that way. A couple of stories related to those. I'll go into those in a bit. So we heard from the ECB, and he's saying that they must cut the rates twice prior to summer break. I don't see that happening. That would throw the euro into severe weakness, boost the stock, but cause a lot of issues and jump inflation almost immediately if they did something in that manner. So I don't think it's going to happen, but it's been a lot of crazy things lately. So with this, we've also got Janet Yellen is on the opposite side, finally admitting the truth that rates are unlikely to return back to how they were before basically all of this started. So it was temporary, then transitory, now unlikely to return. So we've got the banks talking about the cost of taking on Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank's failures. They took over a lot of their assets, pennies on the dollar. However, they're saying the price tag has ballooned to 4.1 billion, and this is because there's still a holding cost. So what this translates to is they're looking to the government to cover this. So every time the government is spending money And putting all of this forward, it has to be paid somehow, and taxes are no longer covering it. So I just want to bring this up because we've got uh, current administration now proposing $7.3 trillion in a new budget. So they want to take $5.5 trillion in tax hikes, which is why I put that on the front of why do we pay taxes, and an additional 11.8 for the border crisis. So an additional $850 billion for the Pentagon. So they found a way now to leave the name Ukraine off of this, and they're just putting $850 billion for the Pentagon. This is going to put into play a little bit later. So talking about whether this is reckless spending. So tax dollars at work. So I had Edward Snowden came out and making fun of Janet Yellen because she's talking now about how we need to bring down the deficit, but not long ago she was the one saying that we could afford 2 wars. So don't know where she was thinking about that, but now she's kind of done a 180 and saying the opposite. So these stories always really kind of should make you think about what's actually going on. So this one, a week after suspending re-enlistment bonuses for the military, the Army National Guard says it suddenly found the money to reinstate the incentives. So the United States military is getting weak and they're having very serious issues recruiting. So how did they suddenly find this was just my question. In their other bank account that they normally send pallets of cash to the Middle East, they're proving they're doing quite a bit of money laundering on their own. Okay, moving on to this story. Haven't seen Bernie Sanders in a while, but basically he's come out saying that millions of Americans, under his new plan, their work hours would change. He's proposing a 32-hour work week, and artificial intelligence should cover the other 8. So the question in this is if companies can save money by using 8 hours of artificial intelligence to replace labor, why wouldn't they fire the person, save money, and replace all 40? So I think that's that new, different kind of math they're not thinking about. So just another short blip on this. They're talking about countries closing in on digital currencies, but the United States lagging. Well, that's because there's major pushback in the United States where a bunch of upstarts and don't like control. So CBDC is being put in place multiple other countries, and what this means is they're advancing it, and they're just thinking of the crisis that will force this on Americans, and then also they're going to try to call it something else that will sound either federal or patriotic or something that you have to get behind. So this is the 2 stories that I wanted to tell you about earlier regarding Boeing and Apple. The Air Force plan to unleash fighters that can't refuse orders. So again, the question here, why do we need fighters that cannot refuse orders? Think about that for a moment. However, what they're discussing is Pentagon's pursuing 2 new contracts through all of these billions of dollars that they're getting to develop artificial intelligence guided drones. So, who's in for these contracts? Well, your usual suspects, starting with Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, and General Atomics was General Dynamics. So, new money flowing into here kind of as suspected. The other side of this is that the first cloud provider to embrace Apple's silicon chip clustering in machine learning. So, what they're finding is that the chips in Apple products are primed for this clustering type of design, which is very similar to what China is used to kind of skirt United States sanctions with these multiple chips and the light layers. So, I do have a lava update that I would like to go over. Uh, I think this one is really exciting and very positive, except for maybe the construction industry, which also is lagging a bit. But this is artificial intelligence architect. and they'll design a climate-friendly dream home. So they design the homes and then also 3D print through concrete. So use robots, they can have these done within a day or two and let this cure. And they're also, aside from the environmentally friendly aspect, these are highly efficient homes that could drive cost savings because the heat numbers on these are just, they're very good. So we'll see how this comes forward. So before I let you go, I just wanted to mention that I have an exciting opportunity. I should be able to speak with Truth Warrior from Atlantic Underground. Looking forward to doing that a little bit later. And after that comes out, I'll put up the link for you. So with that, I wish you all a green day, wonderful day in general. And until I get to see you again, my friends, stay free.